Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to the Wrestling Fans Insight. I'm your host, John Hoppy, along with my brother, tag team partner, William Hoppy. Hello, William.
Hi.
They're energetic as always.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we also have our good friend, fellow teammate, Brian, the Hype Ballard. Brian, Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year. How many days before you can stop saying Happy New Year? Is there a rule?
You know what? I think you should get at least the first 10 days.
10 days. Okay, we got it. So we got a
How
10.
about that?
We got a 10 count, right?
Luckily we're only in day 4, so
I like it.
at least we're still in the grace day period. But man, it has been a while since we've connected. I believe since late October, this is the last time we got with each other.
Yeah.
So, lots of things going on. Brian, how was your holiday?
It's very good. It was a nice time to hit the refresh button, but necessarily some time to catch up on a lot of things, including some wrestling.
Now, William, you and I have had a really busy holiday this year.
We did. We were super pressed for time, trying to fit everything that we could in, and there was just a lot.
There was. I mean, you had a lot going on in personal. Same here, work, personal. I mean, last year was definitely not our best year staying on top of the podcasting game, but this year we're looking to be a little bit better and a little more consistent. And so hopefully, we'll be able to provide more content for all our favorite fans out there. As you're seeing this, we are broadcasting live now on the Wrestling Fans Insight YouTube channel. And also, we made a move off of my personal X account from the WFI pod over to our network, the Fans of Pro Wrestling Network. So be sure to catch the lives there if you're going to tune live and make some comments. Also, we're going to be back on the audio version platforms too, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, iHeartRadio, and wherever you get your wherever you download your favorite podcast from. So, William, I know you've had quite the busy week.
Yeah, it's definitely been busy.
So,
new things going on in life, and still dealing with old things. So,
but the good part is things are looking up for you. So,
yeah, we're getting my health figured out little bit by little bit. The relationship thing is good.
Awesome.
So, hopefully everything will settle down within the next few weeks here.
Yeah. Well, in due time, everyone deserves to be happy, including you. So,
yeah, the Grinch found it.
His heart grew 3 times too big here, folks. So, anyways, as Brian mentioned, we had a lot of time down, to get a little more, try to catch up on wrestling. For us, mainly here on the Wrestling Fans Insight, we've mostly been WWE and AEW. I'm hoping to do a little more. I know I keep saying that, but given time, I'd love to try to show some love to all the promotions out there. And we'll discuss a little more into it when we get to the later part of this segment. But why don't we go ahead and get to a nice little start here. Through the catch-up, I would like us to kind of touch on some of our most memorable moments for 2025. And, it's had its ups, it's had its downs. Brian, let's go ahead and start with you as far as what did you feel was most memorable in the year 2025?
Well, I mean, overall, this was WWE marketed as the year of John Cena, right? It was that was the retirement tour, and that's where they put all their chips on that bet, right? And they said, this is come out, have fun. It's going to be a year to remember. You know what? There were memories, right? We can debate whether they were good or bad memories. What we do remember also is it started with the Royal Rumble. We got a Jey Uso win. I will say that I was not a fan of that win, right? And then we also got a John Cena heel turn at the Chamber, which then led up to a WrestleMania John Cena 17-time world champion record break, and a Jey Uso winning a world championship, making Gunther tap out or choke out, right? So then leading on, we would go in and get a John Cena face turn, and as we get, some would say a failed heel run. And then we would actually get a Gunther John Cena to wrap the year up all the way through the end of the year. So really, it's kind of how we started out the beginning of the year, bookend all the way to the end of the year with those two groups meeting up at the end of the year, which I kind of do like that they kind of started the story out with those two group champions and ended with that. But that really was the most memorable part of the year. There wasn't a lot in WWE. One thing I will not forget about the year, though, was, me freaking out about what was going to happen to the WWE content and where I was going to watch WWE content. Peacock finally, went goodbye in the last few weeks of the year. And I am not going to lie, I added a lot to my DVD collection, because I said, where's it going to go? I'm going to add to my collection even more because a lot of it went to Netflix, thank goodness. But, some of it's on YouTube, some of it's everywhere. So, and I think we're going to still get some of that unraveled, right? I'm still hoping that the ECW and WCW stuff is going to be out there. But we did get a move that not a lot of fans are able to afford, going to ESPN, right? And there was a corporate move there. 2025 will also be remembered, in my opinion, as the move to corporate sponsorship. In my mind, we got a lot of mats and advertisements mid-match and a lot of just things that, I have said on my channel and this channel that, were very distracting during the match and sometimes did take me out of it. I know that sounds, kind of negative, but, things that I think as all wrestling fans do, are aware of. And I know we were aware of. Meanwhile, on the other side of the thing, we did have AEW, trying to fight the other fight on the other side of it and try to reinvent themselves this year. And they went through a year of struggles as they tried to refine their identity. And towards the end of the year, just recently, recrowning, their crown jewel, MJF as champion. But, kind of struggled throughout the year and said, where do we go? Who's the face of our company? What can we do? And so they tried to find their identity. And hopefully in 2026, they can do more of that and actually reestablish themselves. And I think it's wide open to find that classic wrestling fan and try to drag and pull them in. So that was some of the stuff for me. How about you guys?
Do you want to start, Will?
Yeah, mine's going to be pretty short and sweet. Most of the year was just kind of drab to me. Obviously, the biggest notable moment for WWE was John Cena's heel turn. There's just no arguing that some people might have seen it coming, but just the way they handled it, I thought they played it really well. Here's going to be one Carlos is going to love if he listens to this. Going over to AEW side, I would be failing to not mention the fact that Mercedes Moné achieved the 13 belt. That who's heard of that at the same time? So,
well, I mean, really, the only thing you can compare close is Ultimate Dragon in the WCW days, but Mercedes ended up topping him.
Yeah,
I believe with the 12th belt, if I remember right. But yeah, you're right. She's had an incredible year.
Yeah, I mean, I might not be the biggest fan of her, but I cannot just take away from that accomplishment.
Yeah, great. You're gonna give Carlos a little bit of flutter there, So
yeah, I mean, he's the guy to have the flutter.
So, Brian, some key things I do want to touch on. I think the year started great with a return that the internet was, I'll be damned on at the Royal Rumble. For anybody who remembers, this young lady was heavily rumored not to be coming back for WWE, but out came number 25, Alexa Bliss, who came to the shock of everybody because there was a lot of mixed messages sent that just cryptic messages, I guess you can say, that who knows where she was going to end up. And all of a sudden, here she came to one of the biggest pops I've heard in Royal Rumble history. I almost want to say it was right up there with Edge's return to wrestling in the Royal Rumble as well. So you can't go without saying that Alexa Bliss coming back to the WWE, she made her return, and boy, that was something I think WWE fans really needed, and it was heard. Another thing I would say, on top of Cena's great year becoming the Never Seen 17, he became finally a member of the Grand Slam achievement there finally getting that little one championship that's kind of been the monkey on his back, the Intercontinental Championship.
Next up, Sheamus.
And I really like to say kudos to Dom for giving Cena that moment too, because I feel like Dirty Dom's had quite the year too after winning that Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, and then he drops it for that short time to Cena just to win it back. So that was definitely a credible moment to see Cena finally get that achievement before he called it good. And a little bit going into the AEW things, I love the fact that, where Brian was saying AEW was having a problem with some identity there. They had to do some grind to kind of get themselves back in the spirit of pro wrestling. And I think they did that. And a lot of people were trying to understand what the whole deal with the Death Riders storyline was. And I think this is what served its purpose, was John Moxley trying to get everybody in AEW to step it up. And nobody, for some reason, nobody could understand that. And by doing that storyline with the Death Riders going into the match with Hangman Adam Page into the Texas Death Match, seeing Hangman Adam Page finally free that AEW World Championship from the briefcase that Moxley hid from everybody else, I thought that was one stellar moment. Not only bittersweet for Hangman Adam Page, but to show that how hard a lot of the other talent was stepping up to John Moxley before Adam Page won that championship from him. Another, Jade Cargill winning the WWE Women's Championship. I will say this, and I know a lot of people will argue it. I have a hard time believing how anybody can dismiss that she was not one of the greatest TBS champions at AEW, and to see how well she's kind of
assimilated.
That's a good word to use. I would say has developed, getting into the WWE swing of things. She's done a great job, and winning that WWE championship, I think she earned it. To some, maybe a little early. I know there's a lot of people that still don't like her wrestling style, but she can pull it off. I mean, she's a powerhouse that not too many people can really say you don't see that many in WWE anymore.
No, as far as her actual wrestling skills, she's moved mountains since she got to WWE.
And, another thing, MJF pulling pretty much like a Bret Hart storyline here, manages to get his revenge on Samoa Joe, the very guy who won that championship off MJF 2 years ago at the same exact event. MJF comes in, regains that championship before the year end. I thought it was very well done. It's kind of interesting to see it be like a 4-way deal, but he had that contract to challenge for that championship at any time, which played in his favor. So Willow Nightingale becoming 2 belts Nightingale, I guess you can say. She just like MJF with Samoa Joe. Willow Nightingale recaptures the TBS championship from the very woman who defeated her for it. Really awesome run. I want to say it was over 540 days. I believe it was. Someone may need to correct me on that, but still an impressive run with that TBS championship from Monet. And Willow Nightingale also being the inaugural AEW Women's Tag Team Champions with Harley Cameron. What a way to finish the year with 2 belts right there.
That one actually surprised me.
It did. It shocked me too, because not very often you would see. I think Willow actually is the first female in AEW to have 2 championships in the same brand. So kudos to her. And she's the first ever 2-time TBS champion. So I hope that she ends up with a very long reign with that TBS championship this run. But my last surprising moment, and this is kind of a funny thing, because you know, IWC focus a lot on botches, and I hate that because if you're not a performer in the ring, one, I don't think you should bring it up too much. But this was kind of a happy botch in some way, and what I'm referring to is Thea Hale winning the NXT Women's North American Championship from Blake Monroe. You know, the shock you could see on her face, the referee's face, and even Blake Monroe's face, like, oh shit. This is one of those deals where, you know, Vince McMahon says anything could happen in the WWE, and same goes for NXT. Could even happen in AEW, no matter what brand it is. But it was very awesome to see that Thea Hale is finalized in going down in the history as being one of the youngest champions in NXT history here with that NXT Women's North American Championship. But yeah, sorry, that was quite a list to go down. I figure I want to get them all in. So,
All right.
But do you have any more to top into that?
Not really.
Oh, okay. Brian, did you want to throw anything out there while I was on my long-winded run there?
No, I think, you know, we're all bringing up a lot of good just memories, and a year is a lot to cover, right? So it's, you know, as we're sitting here and you're mentioning things, I'm like, that's right, that did happen this year. That's right, that this happened. And, you know, so we're trying to recap it all in a short term. And then of course, going into, you know, I think WWE is just trying to transition for, you know, from John Cena into what's next as well, because that was a big part of their business. So what do we have coming up next year?
And speaking of John Cena,
Yep.
here's the one that the IWC totally lost their crap over. And it's just amazing how different everybody is out there as a wrestling fan to see their sides it takes and everything. And the one thing I actually thought this retirement match went pretty well for what it was. John Cena ends up retiring after his final match with Gunther from the Saturday night's main event on December 13th, 2025. William, why don't we start with your thoughts?
I thought it was an excellent match. I thought both performed very well. Gunther was obviously the right person. As far as the reactions, I mean, yeah, the tap out was a little bit weak, but for anybody to be mad that John Cena tapped out, look, it's like what the Undertaker said, streaks made to be broken.
Well, and here's the thing. Before we get to Brian, again, I thought the match was done really well. I thought Cena went out the right way. It was a little awkward seeing Cena smile with that light tap out. But the one thing I want to point out is there was something that I saw out on X, being brought up by Shayna Baszler of all people. And the one thing that she wrote out, and it stuck in my head because I actually agree with it. Tapping out doesn't always mean giving up. And when you read into some of the replies when she made that post, there was one other person in the replies that said, no, a tap out also is giving your opponent the handshake saying, job well done, you got me. And I think that was probably one of the best ways to point it out with Cena tapping out. And again, if anything, we should be happy for Cena because this is what he chose to do. And I think that's a lot of things fans don't take in consideration is how does the character want to go out? And I don't think it could have gone any better.
No, Cena earned it. Flat out, he earned it. And I'm looking forward to his future career as far as show business goes. He's actually becoming more growing on me with this Peacemaker series. It's a weird one, but
well, he's got to give Deadpool a competition there on who can be more vulgar and crude, I guess. So
put them both together.
But Brian, let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, I thought the match was, pretty well done. Here's the other aspect. It could have been a lot worse, right? This was a lot of pressure to put on Gunther. This is the final, not just the show, the final match of a very extensive career by John Cena. And you don't want to be the guy to mess that up. Not for the company, not for John, not for anyone. And, seriously, hats off to Gunther. And this match is going to build something so amazing for Gunther's career. When Goldberg fought Gunther over the summer, and Gunther, they rushed that matchup and they had Gunther win that matchup. And I felt like as soon as that happened, I was like, ooh, they're doing this new legend killer thing with Gunther, right? And I was like, ooh, this is a smart way to build a new supervillain. And it just confirmed the rumors of John and Gunther. And they'll go further with it, right? But this matchup, I thought, a very safe person to put John in the ring with, a very skilled person, and somebody that's believable that could make John give up and tap. And so I thought the match was good between the two. I like what Shayna Baszler, what you brought up. So thank you for bringing that point up. I thought that was a very valid point. Tapping out is one, preserving yourself a little bit, right? Because if somebody has you, they have you, right? I've been, through MMA, I've been put in holds and moves, and you're like, dude, you got me. You're like, there's no, you got me. Cool. Let's reset and let's go again. Right. And so usually it's that mentality because you just know. Right. And the only thing is I did not like the smile either. Right. Because that's where we get into remember, entertainment, the theatricals of it. I didn't like let's have his mom tuck him in, give him a nice cup of cocoa, warm by the fire. Right. Like that's what I was like, okay, come on. It was meant to be a little gruesome, right? A tap out. We want, people crying over this, which there were, but we want, if you're choked out, I'm not saying the tongue has to hang out, but you need some eyes bulging. You need some redness. I need some redness. Like when Brock Lesnar wrestles for 5 minutes and gets red, I need some sweat pores and some, I always wanted to pass out, like Stone Cold style WrestleMania 13. I'm not saying he has to bleed, but I always liked the pass out. I was like, oh, John could have passed out. That would have been amazing, right? But, for those that didn't want to give up. But if you wanted to crush, the John Cena legacy of that sense, that's fine. And I would have liked to see not the nice warm cup of cocoa smile, as I'm calling it, right? So I don't know if, I don't know where John's mind was. I don't know if maybe we don't know. We don't know where his brain, maybe he was like, maybe he was just having a surreal moment and he didn't think the camera was going to be that zoomed in on him. And he was like, oh, I'm so happy. This is going to be great. And maybe they just caught him at the wrong time. That's fine. But at the end of the day, taking out that little smile, it was a pretty good match. It was fun. It was a right moment. I think, nobody's walking away saying that they just bombed and, we're all going to walk away, feeling like it was the worst thing ever in the world. So I definitely think, and also on the show, I think the people all did a good job on the show, for the most part. I think there was one match where I'll just say a talent. I think I texted you guys. I think she appeared a little drunk, but I just, it wasn't her night. But other than that, everybody, I think, worked really hard. And whether they were nervous or not, they all, worked really hard to try to, do John a really good job. And so I think, it was as good as it could have went. And John's going to make a very good, ambassador for WWE. He always is. And, now you're going to have John Cena and The Undertaker as those ambassador types for WWE, right? And, it's going to be interesting because WWE is going to be adding these kinds of people as, we go on in the future. And it's going to be a very elite club, even more elite than the Hall of Fame. There's going to be a very small niche of guys that they consider at that level of ambassador at that level. And right now, I think it's just John Cena and Undertaker that's really at that high end level. I guess you could say Dwayne Johnson, Triple H, but they're working there day to day. They're not the casual ambassador, but yeah, that's my overall thoughts.
So one thing I kind of want to touch, because we actually did talk about that in the group chat about the pressure being, John's final show. It's kind of interesting because it wasn't just the one person. It was there was a few people that were having some issues with performing. I don't know if it was just due to the fact that there was a lot of nerves and nobody wanted to mess up. They wanted this to be a perfect event, but it was like almost numerous people having some issues that night. And, I don't usually like to make excuses, but it seems like ever since it wasn't just Saturday night's main event that night. I've seen it happen more often than not, is ever since we've been getting a lot of these advertisements on the canvas and whatnot. And it's not just WWE. I've been seeing this even with some of the UFC and boxing, is there's some moments where some of these people are slipping on the mats and whatnot. And kind of really makes me wonder if we're having some kind of surface issue with these canvas or what's going on. But no, you could definitely tell the nerves were up, but I still think overall it was a great event for Saturday night's main event. There was one comment though after the match with Cena and Gunther, and Michael Cole, I think he made a very strong statement with the way Gunther got his victory over John Cena, and that was professional wrestling destroyed sports entertainment. And lo and behold, we're supposed to be seeing this new era, which I never heard if there was anything announced or what this announcement was. But to me, that was such a strong, straight statement, because Gunther isn't known as sports entertainment. He's known mostly for professional wrestling. And I think Michael Cole did a really excellent job making that statement. And Brian, I don't know if you recalled that statement from Michael Cole, but do you? Yeah. I think that added a lot to it.
Yeah, and I actually do recall that because I remember tweeting it, and because I remember when he said that, I said, "Man, Michael Cole said it best." And I tweeted that because I was like, "Wow, powerful statement." Sometimes we don't give. I know I personally, I forget how good Michael Cole is, and if I remember right, I think he's the longest tenured employee there currently to date. In WWE currently, I think he's got the most tenure now, and it's insane because I wouldn't think about it, but he's been there since the Attitude Era and before. I mean, he's been there a long time, and I seen a list, and it blew my mind because I was like, wow, he's been there a long time. And he's developed so well, but that was him doing his homework, properly preparing, and he had that in the chamber ready to go, and I was like, yeah, that's a strong statement. I mean, because Gunther is professional wrestling. He's that 80s. He reminds me of an 80s style pro wrestler, like get you on the mat, wrestle you down to the mat. I'm not jumping, bouncing off the ropes, doing all the crazy stuff, right? Like it kind of reminds me of your old school, I don't know, Greg Valentine type guys, they're just going to get you down and wrestle you on the ground and not try to, jump all over the place like a luchador. So I think that was kind of a very powerful statement of wrestling versus sports entertainment, and I think it engaged conversation too.
And speaking of which, that we're going to go kind of jump out of the order that I mentioned before we went on air, but that brings you to a good point with Gunther's style of wrestling. It was last week when William Regal sent a message. Whoops. I don't know why that didn't stick around, which is kind of weird. I'm having some issues, folks. I apologize. But anyhow, there we go. Got it fixed now. Blooper. William Regal sent a message out to talent current and in the future, and it was regarding showing a picture of x-ray of his neck and how he's had a lot of problems with soreness and the injuries he's gone through in his career with his neck. And a lot of it was due to scary stuff when it came to making high-risk moves in the ring. And lo and behold, a lot of the IWC tribalists for the one brand kind of took as an attack on them, but that wasn't the case because even the talent in various promotions commended and applauded William Regal for the advice to maybe start slowing down, not have so many fast action moves that are really risky in the ring, because it could cause it can cause you your life. I think this is something fans need to kind of take appreciation when they go to be so judgy when it comes to wrestling matches. Oh, this match is slow paced, or this match is not fast enough. And I think a lot of people forget to realize these are actual people in the ring. These aren't just performers or just for our entertainment. These are real humans doing things to provide the food on the table, roof over their head. If you want to be in the wrestling business, you need to take it a lot of safe measures when performing in the ring, not just for yourself, but for everybody you perform with. And Brian, I know you, as you mentioned, you didn't see that tweet, but I think William Regal brings up a very good, wise advice for talent today and in the future. And we do see it a lot lately. Is you're seeing a lot of guys that land on their necks wrong, or they miss a spot in the ring that can cause a potential injury that could pretty much change their life around. But as far as that goes, how do you react to something like that?
Yeah, real quick, did he mention what move that he felt was most detrimental to that injury? Did he happen to mention it at all?
He didn't mention a particular move, but
Okay.
it was mentioned after the last AEW pay-per-view, and I think it's referring to when Mox had a moment with Kyle Fletcher.
That was a nasty one.
Okay.
In the semifinal match where Kyle Fletcher landed terrible on the back of his neck coming off a middle rope move from John Moxley.
Okay. Yeah. And like I said, I know there's been pile drivers and things that they've been trying to limit and being careful who does it and who's more experienced. And, it comes down to proper training, proper practice, proper preparation. I'm kind of twofold, right? I understand Williams' intentions with this message. He's always trying to look out for guys. Again, what I hear is always hearsay, like you guys, right? It's just what we all hear, rumor. But I've always heard him and Fit Finley were always like the people that always looked out for people in the background and legitimately looked out for them, made sure that these people were always well cared for, that's kind of stuff, right? And actually, John Layla told us Fit was one of those, right? People that actually. The other half of it is, I'm also like, well, we're not doing ballet either, right? Like we enter at our own risk. We know what we're signing up for. We also know we should be cautious, right? And we know that we should train properly. And okay, I'm 6'3" and 215, right? Like I'm probably not going to try a high-end luchador top rope flip, crazy move, because I would not pull that off and I would break my neck falling, right? So where, if I had a different body style, I probably would try, different things. So obviously knowing what you can attempt, what you can train in, when you do MMA, when you do football, when you do other things, you kind of know, okay, I can do this, or no, this isn't for me. So, I think that's also something to be said. And I think that's something that when you scout people, when you train them, I think that's something that, there is a lot of that I would like to believe that is communicated by WWE and AEW and people as they're coming in. I don't know if that happens in the high school gymnasiums or not. I can only go off of, I know here in my hometown, there's a local federation, right? And they always have those talks and say, hey, this isn't for everyone. Just please be sure. But there's good people that run that. So, but I always kind of say, that these are risky moves, but I know where Williams coming from, but also I don't think he's saying something that probably isn't said in the industry, and I don't know. Like, so I guess I'm twofold on it, but also I don't know, I'm kind of mixed because I'm like, well, William, you're not there advising these guys. There should be somebody there advising these guys. And, again, I did not, I know there's moves that go out of hand. I guess who's the one they're responsible for that? Who's the trainers? I guess that's the people, that says, well, hey, hold on, is this a good idea? Nobody wants a Big E situation, those kind of things, right? Which I know was kind of a weird for Ridge Holland, but I guess that's my reaction. I'm kind of twofold on messages like that and what they're designed to, do.
Well, and I know like I said, I agree with the message he sent because, again, talent across the board, WWE, AEW, TNA, NWA, they all applauded Regal with that message. And I think, again, one of the things I would like to see going forward is don't necessarily have such fast-paced matches. Take the time to execute the moves correctly so that we're taking the bumps right. William, did you want to say more to it, or
Not really a whole lot to say. The company I work for, their number one priority and their number one rule is safety first. So it's understandable. Like, I've been programmed to consider everything I do. And I think William Regal makes a strong point that should be listened to, but at the same time, I understand it does come down to a choice.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, no, and again, I think a lot of this is where a lot of the IWC tribalists, I kind of understand both sides, but when you're getting advice from a veteran like William Regal, I think that it's something you really should consider and listen to. It wasn't an attack or anything on a particular company. I think I was just more given the advice for anybody who wants to stay and have some longevity into the wrestling business.
I would say that it's no different than me trying to tell a coworker to take it easy on their back. I have a legitimate reason to tell them that.
Yeah. Well, and I would look at it as, I would take that as just friendly advice from a veteran. Did the community feel different? Did they feel like it was a direct attack on AEW?
Well, that's the thing is you can have an opinion and they're always going to feel like they're attacking their favorite company.
Gotcha.
So, and I think that's where the problem was that rose up with all this was
gotcha.
He felt like it was an attack, but it really, I would like to say we at the Wrestling Fans Insight try to be the voice of reason to make you aware of why he says things like that.
Yeah. I'd be interested in if Mick Foley would have tweeted that, if it would have been a different reaction, because
anyways,
hardcore IWC himself, You
Yeah.
You're going to tell Mick Foley not to say it, so
exactly.
So
all right, let's move on. This is strictly rumor, everybody that is listening to our show, whether you're in the wrestling business, a fan, or a so-called expert. Again, this is just a rumor. WWE possibly up for sale again. And honestly, Brian, I can't say I would be shocked if this really is the case. Many people are kind of under the assumption that this could end up being a sale to Saudi ownerships now. And I think this is interesting, especially after Endeavor just purchased the WWE, has done some great deals, moving to Netflix, moving some of the content to the YouTube, and now also ESPN, which that's the one that frustrates me the most. Just like many of the majority of the WWE fan base. For me, if they just would have kept it on one main platform, it would have been better, like WWE Network. Go figure.
Yeah.
But with this being up for sale, possibly again, I don't know, Brian. This kind of doesn't seem too awesome for WWE and its partners right now.
So You guys heard it here first. Sean Ross Sapp told John Hoppy that WWE is going to be sold to the Saudi Arabia. Thank you, John, for getting the insights on that scoop from Sean Ross Sapp. So
I don't even think he knows who I am or likes me either way. So don't worry, folks.
and confirmed through JD from New York. You guys are
I can't believe you used that name on here.
So we have confirmation. That's two sources. So yeah, I had to Google this when you sent this to us, and I was like, you know what? They've done a lot of business with them. You know, I guess I never asked the question, why has Saudi Arabia spent a lot of money on WWE products? You know, I never asked that question. I just kind of said, oh, great, we're doing a lot of business with them. They're spending a lot of money there. WWE has really taken in a lot of money and really been really profitable off of a lot of it. And I mean, really to the point it got TKO's eyes. And, you know, when I see this, I'm like, were they kicking the tires on it? Do they really want to buy it? And were they seeing, you know, it's an interesting talking point, you know, because when you bring this up and I'm like, okay, let's entertain the idea of what a Saudi Arabia owned WWE world looks like. Netflix is worldwide, right? And I forget how long that deal's for, 10 years, I think. So,
I believe so.
It's not going anywhere for a while. So we're good for a decade, right? We get to filter through the world of YouTube. We know how much fun that is to find anything. By the way, please follow us on YouTube, everyone. So, and then I just realized what I did there. And then also we have, I don't know, with Saudi Arabia, have us looking through their own network that they bought and created for content. You know, it all makes me realize, I guess my main point, WWE Network was one of Vince McMahon's greatest creations. And I did not appreciate it at the time for $9.99. And I bought into it and I enjoyed it. And I didn't even hate it when we moved to Peacock, but I really don't like how everything's so spread out. And now I'm seeing this. And if this is true, well, I would love it if WWE was under an ownership of a true wrestling fan at heart again, to where they said, hey, it is okay to make money, but we also want the fans to appreciate what they paid for. And we want them to love the product that they're buying from us. That's really my big wish here. And I don't know if we would get that from them selling to them. And, you know, honestly, to me, it sounds like I want it to be owned by the McMahons again. But
and see, that was actually going to be my follow-up question with this. As much as we found out what happened with Vince being, you know, behind the scenes and everything else going on with the alleged lawsuit, I know we're going to get some grief on this one.
Mostly you.
Yeah, I know. I'm prepared for it because I love to piss people off. But Brian, would you almost entertain to have WWE sold back to Vince McMahon? Because I kind of feel like things were a little bit better under his ownership.
You know, I was never unhappy being a customer of Vince McMahon's. As a customer and as a fan, I was never unhappy. From a childhood to a teenager to an adult, I never knew behind the scenes what went on, right? I watched these characters being created. I cheered for Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. I loved the DX era. I had so many great memories of heroes and villains, and that was really the magic, right? And then when the curtain got pulled behind the scenes, that's when wrestling started getting ruined, right? A little bit. And at the end of the day, I always enjoyed the product that I was paying for. And, you know, yeah, it was a lot simpler in that sense. And, you know, eventually, let's say if it was a private ownership again under the McMahon family, right? Okay, then it would go to Stephanie and Shane. And I always felt that Shane would have been a nice heir to that with a Stephanie Shane, you know, kind of controlling interest. I always felt like they would have been a nice setup to kind of take over eventually for Vince. And I think the McMahon family, you know, I always felt like it should have stayed with the McMahon family for generations. But I don't know if it ever will swerve back that way. I don't think it will. I think we're beyond that now, but which is a little bit why I like AEW and Tony Khan. He's a wrestling fan at heart. You can tell it's his childhood dream to own the wrestling company. Sometimes it's his downfall, but
well, yeah, and I think that's one of his biggest downfalls is understanding the point to where it's okay to be a fan, but you also need to be the owner, the boss, and you have to separate that at times, especially when you're running a big organization like AEW.
Yeah.
But William, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't have a whole lot of thoughts about it. I mean, it's going to end up where it's going to end up without my control as far as it going back to the McMahons. I don't think I'd have a problem with it as long as there was some regulation there, like personal interactions and whatnot. I think that needs to be stepped up on how that's handled.
All right. I agree with you on that aspect. Have them kind of grounded a little bit.
Yep.
And kind of have an ankle bracelet or who knows what on him, shock collar.
Junkyard dog.
Just
yeah.
keep it under control. Quit being a
Yeah, and I gave that answer just from a fan perspective as a customer, right?
Yeah.
Not as a human being knowing everything, how it operates. And, I'm not in the back at the butcher looking at how all the meat's made, right? I'm just saying, sell me a cheeseburger.
All right. So now we're going to get to the final part of our show here. And thank you for everyone again for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you coming back to us after our long ass hiatus. So we can't have an end of year without going into the new year. So I kind of wanted to do this topic because I think everyone, my goodness, again, I'm having the issues because apparently I don't know how to set up this new stuff here in the StreamYard. So, wrong one still.
Yep.
Let's see if that's going to last. Yes, it should. So, with us saying goodbye to 2025, let's say hello to 2026. And again, we've New Japan just had their Wrestle Kingdom show, which had a lot of awesome matches on there. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out or you can't watch it, be sure to go do some online search and read the results. Or if you're able to go back and watch it, please do so. But thoughts and predictions going into 2026. I know there's a few things we all kind of want to hope to see go on, but William, do you have a 2026 New Year's resolution for pro wrestling here?
Okay, so I'm just going to say right off the bat, I'm not going to throw any predictions out there because I'm terrible at it. But as far as my thoughts go, kind of things I want to see, Brian actually asked me a question before we went on air about how I felt about NXT stars kind of dominating Saturday night main event. I don't want to see any more of the NXT being thrown so much into the other areas. I think NXT can shine on its own. I think Raw and SmackDown, I'd really, really like to see. They've started with the tag team getting better, the tag team scene, but I definitely want to see more women's matches. In AEW, I want to be seeing more solid storylines.
All right. Brian?
All right. So more of the same as far as 2025. The WWE showed the next phase of wrestling. They showed us that retirement tours are profitable and they're going to be the next trend in wrestling. So what they're going to do with that is they've now showed us for the next few years at least, we can make money off of this and people will show up again. So I feel there will be a Chris Jericho retirement tour. Not saying that'll be in 2026, but soon. Mm-hmm. Okay. There'll be maybe an AJ Styles retirement tour. And I think AEW will fall in line with a Kenny Omega retirement tour. Right? who will be Kenny Omega's final opponent, that kind of thing. I think we'll start getting the retirement tour era of wrestling and getting that last, come out for the final time and then eventually get the final match in the final showdown, much like John Cena and Gunther did. So I think that's going to be my prediction for 2026 is going to continue that trend. And I think that's going to start, of course, there's some reports that WWE has already proposed a Chris Jericho retirement tour. And if Jericho chooses to pick up that option. And I think that that's just going to be the new trend now. And I think they're going to do that with everybody. And that's going to show more profitability. And I think AEW will pick up that trend with a Daniel Bryan. And I think they'll pick up a trend with a few guys like that and, kind of start milking that out. And that'll be our next era for at least the next 4 or 5 years. So that's my prediction.
All right. Well, you two had a much shorter list than I did. So
Yeah, we usually do.
I think this year I would definitely love to see on the WWE side of things, LA Knight, who's had quite the popularity follow the last couple of years. I think they really need to make this his time in 2026. Even though he still looks in great condition, he's getting right up there, in the years. So, and I would say if he keeps the way he's going, he can still make about at least another 5 to 7 on it. But I think this year he needs to either win the Royal Rumble or the Money in the Bank and eventually win either the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE Championship. Go ahead.
Trying to think which one would be better.
Well, I don't think either one really is more
I'm
powerful.
talking opponent-wise.
Oh,
Who did you say again, Will?
I'm trying to figure out which one would be better opponent-wise for him to be able to take one of those championships. Honestly, I think it would be the World Heavyweight.
Yeah,
so CM Punk or whoever.
Yep.
I would agree.
And this is kind of contradictory, even though I just mentioned I would love to see LA Knight win the Royal Rumble. I somehow seen 2 possible main events based on the video we've been seeing for WrestleMania in Las Vegas here. I think eventually we're going to see the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns match number 3 here for the undisputed WWE Championship. And if you notice the other 2 characters in that video, Brock Lesnar and your current World Heavyweight Champion, CM Punk, I have a feeling we could possibly see that as one of the other main events for WrestleMania this year.
The Best versus the Beast, part 2.
Yes. Yeah, Best in the World versus the Beast. This would be their second match against each other, unless you count the War Games match. But in a singles match, this would be their second match with each other. So I have a feeling this is the direction WWE's going. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be that way, but this is what I see. Mick Foley, who's recently announced that he does not want to be acquainted with the WWE anymore due to politic reason. Not going to get into it because I don't give a shit about politics. But I would like to see Mick Foley make the move and go over to AEW. I think in some ways, political nature, it's Mick's lane right there. But I think he also could have some good creative ideas for the AEW talent there as well, or even be a good commissioner for him. AEW Women's Tag Team Division, again, just mentioned Willow Nightingale, Harley Cameron, the Babes of Wrath, being the inaugural AEW Women's Tag Team Champions. They went through a pretty good tournament there. They were actually not even really estimated to make it past the quarterfinal, but they did. They went all the way. And watching that entire tournament, I think AEW's got a good thing going here with their women's division. I think if they continue to move things the way they are, I think they will have a heated women's tag team division going into 2026. And last but not least, TNA has a deal with the AMC network starting January 15th. They will be airing Thursday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Their content will also be available on the AMC Plus platform, as well as they'll still have the TNA Plus you can watch.
They got themselves over. They're done.
Yeah, I think TNA is. I do think TNA is going to make a no pun intended impact into being a good content for wrestling fans out there. I've always felt that TNA has always, in many ways, had the better women's division compared to all the other organizations, and it'll be interesting to see how well this AMC partnership works out for them. So, before we go into final thoughts and shout outs, do you have any more to add, Brian?
Actually, just really quick, if you was to pick a winner for the Royal Rumble this year, just you get to book it. Who do you pick? Not who you think would win, but if you was to book it, who would you make win?
If I was to pick it,
yeah, it's your booking.
And I only had one answer.
Yep.
I think LA Knight should be the winner.
Okay.
Hands down.
I kind of agree with where
LA
the want would be with LA Knight, but I could also see Randy Orton.
Okay. For me, it's Obafemi. It's my booking. I'm pushing them to the moon. So, I was just curious where everybody is. I'm getting ideas where people are going, if they want, who they actually would want.
And I think Obafemi will have a great 2026. I would like to see him still have a good, solid, dominant run with the NXT Championship right now.
He's not winning, but it's
yeah.
It's just me. If I was, I'd be like, push him to the moon.
Yeah, I get it, and I think, and to be honest, I think if anything, Obafemi should be the one that retires Brock Lesnar. Yeah, and I'll stand by that statement. I don't care what anybody else says. I think that would be a good one for Brock Lesnar to end with. But anywho, why don't we go ahead and get into our, well, good Lord, I did it again.
You did.
I'm having some issues operating StreamYard this year, folks.
We're talking about William Regal again.
Yeah. Here we go. Let's see if that works. There we go. I'm sorry, folks. But anyways, final thoughts and shout outs. William, did you want to throw in some final thoughts there and recognize anyone out there?
There's been quite a few things that I've enjoyed watching throughout the year. I want to see it continue. Obviously, I'm not going to stop being a wrestling fan. I'm just kind of looking forward to a new year, different content, maybe some regurgitated content, whatever. I just want to continue to be entertained. So looking forward to that. And as far as shout outs go, obviously, it's always me saying thank you to the fans.
All right. Brian?
I'll keep it simple. Thank you, everybody on IWC Wrestling Twitter. Thank you both, Will and John, Wrestling Fans Insight. And thank you guys for doing the show today.
Oh, and I want to say thank you to you and Will for coming along and doing an episode with me, get the new year started off right off track. Again, we're trying some new things here, hopefully keeping a more consistent time on Sunday nights when this does air live. And then with our audio platforms should be available right about the 7 to 9 o'clock in the morning mark there for most of you. So, but again, thank you to each and every one of you that have tuned in. Thank you to our community in the Fans of Pro Wrestling group chat, as well as those in the Wager Wire family, Carolina, Amber Holly, Adam, Billy, Joseph, Anna, James McMahon. No, there's quite a few. Hurricane Tommy, Alabama Richie. Thank you to each and every one of you who've been supporting me. Rosie Blue Eye. You all have been wonderful welcoming me back. I appreciate it. And I hope I'm able to get into supporting a lot more of your content as well. Want to also give some special shout outs to Jim over at the Fan of the Van. the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, Average Joe Sports, the Steel and Teal Podcast, Brutally Honest Sports, Nate's Daily Wager, Visit Vegas Places with Coil, In a Pickle Pod, IAP Radios, he's also known as. Again, I can't get to everybody, but I do appreciate you, and sorry if I left you out. I promise I will do better and get you in the next round. Again, we will be going live here now at FOPW Network on X, and also at Wrestling Fans Insight on our YouTube. Should be hitting Sunday nights every week at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Also available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Good Pods, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcast. We should be on there as well. If we aren't, please hit me up in the DM. I will get us on there. And without any further ado, please enjoy wrestling this week. We will be back next Sunday. Appreciate each and every one of you. Peace out.